Hearty welcome to Interface program. Shri P.V. Rajgopal, we congratulate you. You have won this year's Indira Gandhi National Integration Award. Thank you are striving for the cause of the upliftment of the downtrodden and the marginalized. So, we would like to share your experiences, your field of activities and your motivation in this field.
Thank you.
Kindly elucidate.
Yeah, see, I began my mobilization work back in 1970.
Okay.
My action began in the Chambal region of Madhya Pradesh, where I was organizing young people, because those were the days when Chambal Ghati was known for violence. There were dacoits, large number of dacoits, so they were killing and counter killing. So my first action was to move into this region with many other Sarvodaya Gandhian workers to contain violence. We thought as long as there is violence, school cannot be run, agriculture is not possible, and no other development program is possible. So it was very important that we contain violence in that region. So it all began in 1970, and in 1972 in the ashram that we were running, Mahatma Gandhi Seva Ashram, in about 20 kilometers away from a place called Morena, 560 dacoits surrendered. They were very dreaded dacoits, and because of them there was terror in that area. There was so much of violence and counter violence. So the beginning was basically to deal with violence, but then soon we realized.
So were you disappointed or?
No, it is. See, the realization was that it is not important. It is not only important to counter direct violence. What is important is also to counter indirect violence. You see, we are all concerned about direct violence. When there is war, we are concerned about. When somebody is killed, we are concerned about. But then we are not concerned enough to understand indirect violence, what you call the structural violence or systemic violence. So, I moved from addressing direct violence to addressing indirect violence. So, you can see a progressive change in my work, that while in Chambal Valley I was dealing with direct violence and dacoits and problems related to dacoity and murder, whereas later part of my work I was trying to address the indirect violence like exploitation, injustice, poverty, marginalization, etc.
These were their crucial problems.
They were very, very important.
I would like to get your point of view. Are they accessible or they are accessible in this venture?
You see, it takes time. It takes time for one
to understand. It's a gradual process.
It's a gradual process. It takes time for one to understand the deeper issues and deeper dimensions of Adivasi problems. You know, Adivasis problem can be understood only by living with them. They are living close to nature.
Co-living.
They are living in a simple way. So, unless you understand what are their aspirations, so the basic problem with our planning, our development model is that we are basically addressing everything from our perspective.
That's right.
What we feel is right, we are trying to impose. I very often say that this is what the British people did with Indians. The British people said, oh, these Indians are undeveloped and we need to bring them into the mainstream, so they should behave like us, they should speak like us, they should dress like us. So, the same way we are trying to address the problems of Adivasis. We feel that they should behave like us.
There should be a change in attitude.
That is, and I think there should be a change in our attitude. We need to understand Adivasis from their perspective, their angle, their life positioning, and plan everything in order to change their life according to how they want to change.
You are mentioning direct violence, indirect violence. What is the difference between for a common man?
See, this is basically people understand direct violence because when there is a war in Iraq or Syria, people say, oh, there is so much violence.
Atrocities will be there.
Yeah, and when there is an attack in Paris, people say, oh, there is so much violence. But around us in India, there is so much poverty, so much exploitation, so much corruption, so much migration, so many slums. And we don't say there is violence. See, our understanding of violence is so limited that we only see blood as violence, war as violence. What is important is to see injustice as violence, deprivation as violence, and poverty as violence. Then, if we have that feeling, what is real violence, then we will try to change them. See, why I say this?
Right.
Indirect violence is the breeding ground for direct violence.
Correct.
It is like stagnated water. When there is stagnated water, mosquitoes will be born.
Right.
Rather than killing mosquitoes, what is important is to change the water. See that water is flowing. Similarly, rather than saying, oh, there is violence, we need to understand why violence and understand the reasons behind violence. And if we try to address these reasons behind violence, I think a lot of our problems can be solved. And that is what the educational system should do today. In fact, if all educational institutions can make young people understand what is structural violence, what is systemic violence, what is indirect violence, and make them sensitive.
You have given emphasis to education.
Yes.
I would like to get a clarification from your end, how this can be piloted from the educational perspective.
You see, this can be started off by understanding that non-violence need to be a cross-cutting agenda.
Okay.
See, it's like today's economy is violent economy.
Okay.
So, can we teach people non-violent economy? Today's journalism is violent journalism. We are reporting violence and crime. You look at the newspaper.
It can't be otherwise.
This is how you sell newspapers, right?
Yes.
So, you look at the newspapers, you find so much of news about violence, so much of news about advertisement about film, and all these advertisements are heroes standing there with a gun. So, I think whether it is economy, whether it is journalism, whether it is development, today's development model is very violent development model.
From education, primary education, higher education, or
even education is violent to that extent, because it is.
No, we have to pilot. We have to start it from the primary level or the higher education level. What is your?
I think this has to begin with the teachers, right? This cannot begin with the students. Today, teachers need to understand.
Charity begins at home.
Yeah, teachers need to understand what is indirect violence and how do we contain it. If that is clear to them, I think they can help children not to be competitive, but to be cooperative. How to cooperate with each other? How do we solve the problems of our classroom? How do we have a peace group so that we can not only solve the problem of the classroom, but also can solve the problem of the school and the society? See, a teacher need to imbibe a lot of these values, and then from that space he or she will have to help children to understand that what is important is not competition but cooperation, and peace building is possible even in the classroom, back at home. You know, in some countries they have what you call the peace club, peace corners. When two children will fight, two students will fight, they will ask them to go to the peace corner and resolve the issues and come back. Why is it important? Then these people learn to talk.
You had the privilege to be in constant contact with many national leaders, social reformers and activists.
Right.
Can you mention some of the?
See, I have worked with many interesting people, and that is where I learned my lessons. I have worked with Asha Devi Aryanayakam. Asha Devi Aryanayakam was one of the most known person in the Nai Talim education field, and I was with her in Sevagram. I have worked with S.N. Subbarao. I have worked with Radhakrishna Menon in Kerala. I have worked with Abha Gandhi. You see Abha Gandhi's photograph where Gandhi is always holding Abha Gandhi to walk. And I have worked with Kanu Gandhi, her husband. I have worked with Krishna Swami and Radha Krishna. So I had this.
What was the nature of the inspiration and motivation you were getting from those dignitaries?
See, what is important is that every generation has the responsibility to pass on values to the new generation. So Gandhi's generation is gone. Vinoba's generation is gone. But there were many people in my life whom I knew who worked with Gandhi, who worked with Vinoba, who worked with Jayaprakash, Lohia, and all these people. So they were close to this. Many of them worked with Kumarappa.
Yes.
Many of them worked with Acharya Kripalani.
Yes.
So these people had the opportunity to see those great individuals, and they were able to transfer those values to my generation. So I feel it is our responsibility as social activists, as teachers, to pass on very important values to the new generation.
There is an opinion that our education should be converted into value-based education.
Yes.
Even otherwise, education should be
value-based.
Value-based. So,
Yes.
what do you mean by value-based education as a social activist?
You see, India is a country where we have many important people. This is a country of Buddha, this is a country of Mahavir, this is a country of Vivekananda, this is a country of Mahatma Gandhi and Vinoba Bhave. And what are those values? You see, if you look at Buddha, you look at Mahavir, you look at Gandhi, you see one common value, that is renunciation, right? They are all renouncing.
Parigraha.
Parigraha. See, so not to accumulate. Now, what we see around us is all people running for accumulation. You and me know that this accumulation will create poverty and deprivation in the society. So, if some people will accumulate and they have this desire to accumulate, never-ending desire to accumulate, then millions of people will have to go hungry. So, the value, what I say, is those kinds of values that you can have possession, but you don't have to have wealth. See, respect, if at all you are accumulating wealth for respect, respect comes from renunciation also. Gandhi is not respected because he had a lot of money. Buddha is respected because he gave up his palace. So, So, this is very important that we are able to teach our children, our students, look, values of that kind, right, are very important. Like if Gandhi was teaching us that you don't have to hate anybody while you fight him.
Right.
It's a value.
Hatred.
Right. So, hatred, you see, our world is full of hatred. What you see around is hate. Hate around religion, hate around language, hate around countries. So, Gandhi is teaching us a very important value. Gandhi is also teaching us a value through charkha that you have no reason to consume unless you produce.
Yes,
so, you work in the field.
I have to ask you one more question. That is, you are hailing from Kerala.
Yes.
But you have travelled all over India. And what do you think that how a Keralite can function, can take them into confidence with the people of North India, with their language, with their approach to life and all these things?
Yeah. I think people are generally welcoming. Right. And especially when you go from southern part of India without knowing language, and you go and work in a village in North India, they just welcome you. They say, wonderful. This young man without knowing even language has come to help us. So, I think if we can understand the welcoming nature of the society, people will move more and more to the villages and tribal areas and difficult areas, because there people are more welcoming, because nobody is going to them. See, no leaders are reaching into remote areas, no officers are reaching to remote areas. So, when a social worker reaches there, they are really very happy.
Most welcome.
Most welcome. And that is how, because I was living in villages, I was traveling in villages, so people started loving, because they thought at least somebody is listening to us. And on the other hand, you are not really listening to them, you are organizing them so that they can get justice. Because people, when they get organized and go to an office, they get their water sources, they get their school, they get their teacher, they get their doctor, because organized efforts in democracy, organized efforts are going to be very meaningful. And so, we were teaching them how to get organized in villages so that the government will function, government can deliver. On top of it, we were also speaking to the people in higher levels, so that we can bring them to closer to the people. So, we were systematically organizing people, helping them, being a bridge between the poor people and the government, and that is how you win the heart of people.
You were mentioning that Adivasis will become our guru in future.
Yes. I see, this is very important to understand.
A clarification is required.
Yes.
How Adivasis can become the gurus of the so-called
educated people.
Yes.
Right. I think this is very interesting that the more I look at Adivasis, because I find that they are very simple.
Yes.
They consume very little. I mean, they don't consume as we consume. Their needs are very limited. And they are very close to nature. Because they are very close to nature, they protect nature.
Okay.
So, in the long run, I think when we consume everything and we plunder this world,
Right.
we take all the oil, we take all the coal, we take all the iron ore, we pollute the world, resources, and when there is nothing to pollute, when there is nothing, no resource to loot, what are we going to do? We will have to relearn how to live simple. We will have to relearn how to live with minimum, and then definitely we will look at the Adivasis and say, please teach us.
They will become our gurus.
They will become our gurus. So I say, destroying Adivasi and Adivasi culture is basically destroying our future, because a day will come when you want to know how to live simple, how to live close to the nature. There will be nobody else to teach you, the Adivasis. So it is in our interest. Okay, you forget about their interest. Even in your interest as a selfish human being, if you can understand that protecting the life, dignity and culture of Adivasis,
so their
will be
concept of
helpful.
development, our concept of development, they do not tally.
They will not tally, because
which measures will be required for their development.
Right. See, the present model of development is basically an imitation of what is happening in the West. Mahatma Gandhi early on told us, look, this development model has no future. But people didn't believe him.
Hind Swaraj,
Hind Swaraj. In his book Hind Swaraj, he said, look, this development model will destroy the planet.
Okay.
Today, when we are doing climate change conference in Paris, we are thinking about Gandhi. See, he said that so many years back.
Like a prophet.
Like a prophet, you see. So I think this development model based on exploitation of nature, I call it, this model is violence on human being, violence on nature. So this is violence on both. We are keeping millions of people poor, we are destroying the resources and nature. So this development model need to change. This is a very exploitative.
What is your concept of national integration, including or making them also the beneficiaries of this integration process? These Adivasis and the marginalized people.
In fact, if we can plan, you see, there is a formation in English where you say you stand in the shoe of the other.
Yes.
Right. If we can stand in the shoe of Adivasis and the poor people, and see what should be the development that will change their life. What will change the very unjust, very exploitative condition which they live, then I think the development model will be different. So if you want to be inclusive, if you want to integrate them into this development model, we need to for a minute stand in their position and think, what are they asking for? So formulating policies according to the aspiration of people will be very important. What is happening today? Much of the policies are formulated according to what we want. Right? This is the educated man's, the so-called enlightened man's concept of development. This is not the concept of poor people. And in order to achieve this development, we are destroying the life, culture and resources of millions of people. If you go to many states, including Kerala, including Chhattisgarh, including Madhya Pradesh, or all the states, you will find large mining happening, and all these minings are by displacing Adivasis, and Adivasis are resisting, and they are not asking for anything big.
Museum pieces.
They are only saying, look, please give us control over Jal Jungle Jameen. Jal Jungle Jameen means water, forest and land.
Please clarify from this view, from the point of Adivasis, Jal Jungle Jameen.
Yeah, see, they feel life is all around water, forest and land. This is what God has given. If you remember Vinoba said, God given resources are very different from government created or people created resources. What are the God given resources? The land, the sky, the air, the forest, water, these are all God given resources. And God given resources should be accessible to all. We cannot say all the land will be for the rich people, all the water will be for water
no discrimination.
companies. There should be no discrimination. So because God given resources are for all God's children. So that will be the concept of Vinoba, and I think if we understand that concept of God-given resources being shared by children of God, then I think there will be a different development model emerging, and that is the kind of development model that is sustainable. Now, because we are speaking about sustainable development model, based on exploitation, based on destruction of nature, there cannot be a sustainable development. Sustainable development is possible only by developing everyone. That is where Sarvodaya concept becomes important. I don't know how much people understand of Sarvodaya.
Welfare of all.
Yeah, because now the process is well-being of minority or well-being of majority. This is what people understand.
Yes, yes.
And Mahatma Gandhi was good enough to tell us well-being of majority is not good enough, well-being minority is not good enough. What is important is well-being of all.
Sarvodaya.
And Sarvodaya. And that is where the Sarvodaya concept came. So, well-being of all should be the focus of every planning. And well-being of all should begin with well-being of last. That's why Gandhi said Antyodaya.
Do you suggest that some actions are to be taken by the government from the legal perspective?
I think it is more of education. Education of people at large, education of planners, education of educated people. Educating the educated is very difficult, you know, because we all believe we are educated. So, re-educating the educated, we need to revisit our own perspective, our own perception of development, because we want a country based on justice. Because a country based on justice will also be a country of peace. A country based on injustice can never be a country of peace. So, what is important is that all of us to put our brain together to say India need to be a country of justice, because that is what Gandhi told us, that is what Buddha told us, that is what Mahavir told us, that is what Vivekananda told us. So, India need to be a country of justice. India need not be an America.
You are giving emphasis on a term sustainable peace.
Yes.
Just like sustainable development.
Yes.
Now, we are talking on a specific term, sustainable peace.
Yes.
Can you elucidate that?
Because you know, you can bring temporary peace by using force.
Yes.
You can use police and army to bring temporary peace. And as soon as there is no force, the peace will not be there, because there is injustice. So, peace cannot be kept permanently in an unjust system. And world all over, where you see violence, where you see conflict, are all because of injustice, and it is everywhere in the world. So, if we want sustainable peace, a sustained peace, we need to remove injustice from the society. That is why we say sustained peace or sustainable development, all that need to be based on a concept of justice. So, justice will lead to peace, and ultimately we are all asking for a peaceful world. See, you and me would like to live in a peaceful world. Who would like to live in a violent world?
Explain your concept. Anger also can be converted into a positive energy.
Yeah.
See, how this is possible?
This is a very, very interesting area, because you know, for the last many years I am focusing on this. Because
anger as positive energy.
Exactly. See, everybody will come and tell you, don't be angry. Just by saying, how can you change your habit? Because anger is an emotion like all other emotions. So, it is not bad to be angry. But then what do you do with this anger is the question.
Yes.
There are many forces wanting to use this anger for destruction, right? All the violence, you can get half a dozen angry young people and make them burn a bus. They can throw stone at the building. So, anger is misused by a group of people in the society.
Yes.
Because that is what they understand. Now, people like us, educated, should understand that anger is an emotion, a good emotion, because that gives people a lot more energy than usual energy, and this energy can be used for positive action. See, when I organize a non-violent yatra, a non-violent journey of 1 lakh people from Gwalior to Delhi or in many places, they are angry because they are poor, they are exploited, they have no land, they are angry.
Conversion?
So, this anger is getting converted into positive energy. So they are all marching, they are all dancing, they are not hating anybody, they are not hitting anybody, but then they are marching and dancing, and this is inspiring everybody. This anger getting a positive color inspires everybody. So when lakhs of people are walking because of this beautiful way of walking, everybody is bringing food, everybody is bringing medicine, young people are coming and joining. So I think we need to learn this art of converting anger into positive energy. And I believe that if you can convert solar energy and wind energy, you can also convert anger energy into positive action.
So original concept.
This is a very interesting way. And in the last many years, while working with people, I was trying to develop concepts, right? And you know, one concept, interesting concept, which I want to bring here.
Conversion of anger.
Yeah, conversion of anger. But then another concept I want to bring is, look, poverty is generally seen as economic poverty.
Okay.
But I think economically poor people are also very rich, because they are socially, culturally, spiritually very rich.
That poverty line is entirely different.
It is very different. You see, this, you always say they are poor. They are only economically poor. They are socially, culturally, spiritually very rich.
In other spheres, they will be.
Exactly. So if you understand the strength of the poor people, then your work will be very different. Similarly, whom you call rich are economically rich. They are socially, culturally, spiritually very poor. Right? So when you want to fight against poverty, you are not only fighting economic poverty of the poor, but you are also fighting against spiritual poverty, cultural poverty of the rich.
Very brilliant idea.
So the very concept of fighting poverty, then you will say poverty is a general issue, and I need to work with everybody. I don't have to hate anybody.
So your ideas
the
on
old
anger,
concept,
your ideas on anger and poverty are really marvelous. So how younger generation can be motivated through these ideas?
I think younger generation need opportunity. See, younger generation are very bound by studying for a job. See, this job seeking education, every day you are only thinking about passing the examination, finding a job. And I think our universities and colleges should open them up, send them to villages, and give them opportunity to understand the world and see, in this world, in this changing world, what is my role? If the changing role is creating problem, how can I really work to solve those problems, etc., etc. So there is a lot of possibility for young people to get involved in very creative work and make the world a different place for everyone to live happily.
So Rajaji, this interface was very inspiring and thought-provoking. You were piloting so many original ideas, this anger, this poverty and all these things. We once again congratulate you for getting this award, and I hope that you will be moving ahead with a younger generation.
Thank you, RCG.